rooftop garden. I don't know how much you know about Wales, but it rains in Wales 272 days of the year. I can tell you I live here, unfortunately. So, for over 100 years, this was open to the elements, and the elements absolutely battered the decoration underneath. It wasn't until about 10 or 15 years ago that they put this protective covering on the roof. This is meant to remind you of a Roman rooftop villa. The third Marquis visited Pompeii. He saw the rooftop ruins there and tried to recreate it in Wales. An idiotic idea, but there we go, he did it anyway. So if you have a look at the roof, you have a tiled slanting roof with the open middle, very Roman, mosaic floor, which is what you're standing on, and the mosaic garden, which is the bit that I am standing on here. You have to try and use your imagination, unfortunately, to think of this as a garden. These pots would have been filled with flowers and strawberries. You'd have small fruit trees around the edges of the garden. There used to be, up until about 2 years ago, a chain that ran between all of the bull's rings around the periphery, and little hanging baskets would have dawned down. Unfortunately, the Cardiff Council, in their infinite wisdom, took them away about 3 or 4 years ago for a health and safety hazard. But there we go. We have some more biblical references in this room. The first one is the story that surrounds us on the walls here. This story is of the Old Testament prophet Elijah. He was a prophet who had a series of confrontations with the pagan prophets of the god called Baal or Baal, depending upon your interpretation. Underneath each scene, you have Hebrew extract, which will tell you what's going on in the scene above it. Why Hebrew? Well, the third Marquis was learning to read and to write Hebrew at the time that this was being decorated, and it is a memory aid to his studies, in effect. Another biblical reference is this wonderful looking woman here. This is the Madonna, this is the Virgin Mary, and she is smiling at Christ, who is the child, in her hands. She faces out of the west window, and there's a theory behind why she does that. The theory is that the sun, when it sets across the mountains on the periphery of Cardiff, it shines through the window and it illuminates her face in a pseudo-religious experience. Nice idea, but it just doesn't work. There's the aforementioned weather problems that Wales suffers from. There's not a lot of sun, so that isn't the best idea. But not only that, if you have a look, the fountain is directly in the way of the window anyway. So even when the sun comes through, it doesn't get to the poor Madonna behind me. So a nice idea, but it doesn't work. Now, when you consider that all of this has been designed by the same man, you must ask the question, why did he get it wrong? And the honest answer, and you may not like it, is that William Burgess was a huge opium fiend. He was high a lot of the time he was working on this house. He was a very eccentric man. He was less than 5 foot tall, there-ish. You'd walk around in Cardiff Castle wearing medieval clothes, with a parrot on his shoulder that he named Polly, that he tried to get to give directions to his men instead of speaking himself, with opium in his mouth, smoking away. He was eccentric, he was quite a troubled man, and he was a drug addict. So much so that in 1881, while this castle was still being worked upon, he died. It was officially recorded by the health board of the time. He died of the cold, which meant he died of a drugs overdose. But frankly, let's face it, he wouldn't be the first man in history to have created great artwork off the back of taking a lot of drugs. He won't be the last one either. But it's interesting to note that as a man, he was troubled, severely troubled, but his art, or his music, or whatever it would be, is objectively speaking, very impressive. So, we should move on. We should go all the way down the stairs to the bottom of the stairs. There's the small dining room. That's the next room on our tour. So I'd like to invite you to make your way down. To be the last person to leave the room for health and safety. So, you make your way down. I'll see you there in a moment. The man was